Welcome to the Diary of a Muse podcast. I'm Tess Day, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here with me, embarking on this journey of discovery and transformation. Well, good day, everybody. On today's podcast, we have got Charlie Winton with us, the CEO of OK Positive. Great to have you here, Charlie.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, Tess.
Great. So, we know we're going to go on a winding road today, but I thought for the listeners, it would be nice to just sort of give a small overview of what OK Positive is and then ask you to add anything to that, because I'm sure I'm not going to get it all in one go. But from what I understand, OK Positive is a Scotland-based company founded in 2019 by yourself and a beautiful dedicated team of operators in the background. You're dedicated to enhancing mental health support through innovative technology, and you offer a platform that integrates AI and machine learning to proactively identify and address potential mental health triggers, facilitating early intervention. Right, that's kind
Yes,
of
well,
like
that's
very technical answer, but do you want to elaborate on that a little bit for us today?
yeah. Well, in essence, we work with a range of different organizations, whether that's a company or a charity, a school or a university that supports a group of people, and we start facilitating all of their learning, education, support in one place that's accessible, really easy, and safeguarded and sealed off through the technology. But at the same time, what we're looking to learn is anonymously how people are feeling, what they need, what they're going through, so that we can help them better in like that scaled approach of looking at what people are feeling, why they're feeling it, what they need more of, and so we can provide more of it. So it's really a blueprint to help understand communities of people and how we can best help them or intervene if things are going wrong. So we're looking at things in healthcare, about public healthcare services, and looking at whether which services are most needed, which ones need funding from the very people that are experiencing those things that they're going through. So it works in a range of different things. So we're really excited about the projects we're doing. It ranges from helping people within those charitable communities, or if it's people in public healthcare, or it's in the organizations where they are based and there's a lot of stress, whether that's workplaces, or if it's a university with learning and exams and things like that. So yeah, it's a very rewarding job. Tech's not the answer to the problem, but we're the vehicle to helping people get those answers or getting that support, and learning from what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
But you
and
summed it up perfectly, but very technically.
Oh, I did. It was a very technical overview, and I think it's just much nicer the way you've described it to us because it just feels like it has a beating heart when you speak, which is interesting because you're a technology almost based company. Where did this stem from, Charlie? What was it? 2019 was just before we went into a very impacting time globally. So how did you have the foresight so
Starting
early
a
on?
business before a pandemic, yeah, great idea.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I was toying with that, going, "What am I doing? Quitting my job and going and
Yeah.
starting a business when no
Yeah.
one's out and about." It stemmed from my own experience. So I've got quite a lot of I suffer from OCD, quite high levels of anxiety. I worked in recruitment as my first job, and I experienced a workplace that an operating model that didn't fit to people who have OCD and anxiety,
Yeah.
and so while I was good at the job, I was really struggling in my personal life, and it started getting to a point of crisis where I wanted to help myself. So I went and looked up things and educated myself on different therapies, different services, and went, right, well, I want something that's a bit more for me, for dummies, to go, actually, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? What can I do about it, really simply? And then started looking at the business case of it and going, actually, all these people are leaving businesses, or they're stressed, or they get into situations of crisis where we could stop it earlier because we're just helping them at an earlier stage, and also giving people that autonomy to do it for themselves. And if it worked for me and I haven't had a panic attack in 7 years since doing it,
Wow.
then can we give that to other people? Because I know that everything's unique and different. And that's why I thought technology would be a great start point, because it's private, it's
Mhm.
something that you can do for yourself. And I think from this process, learning that actually people are less, it's like the boogeyman theory. Like, if you think there's a boogeyman under your bed, you're scared. But if you then find out it's the wind or a creaky pipe or whatever it is in the house, it's the heating going on. It's less scary. And that's the same thing when it comes to health, anxiety, mental health, neurodiversity, all these different things. If you know what it is and you understand it, then you're going to be able to deal with it better and actually thrive. So we wanted to find ways to do that. And that's why I started this all, and why it's a real passion point for me, because I've experienced it myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been built through lived experience.
Which is brilliant because obviously that means that you're sort of from the foundation points, you're a true life example of the process of what somebody does go through, even though we all go through it differently. You have the empathy to sort of be able to understand what it feels like in a corporate environment, whether it's at university or actually when you come out of all that community stuff and you're sort of working on your own or with a small team. It's different levels of challenges. We first met, I think, during the pandemic, and started having that conversation. And you gave me the opportunity to look at the app as well. And it is such a simple process for an individual to be able to use. And it's really light in that, you don't have to have any knowledge to be able to answer a question or identify how you're feeling on a particular day. And I know it's probably evolved so much since then. And long term, I would expect that it's the data that you collect, very powerful bit of information that is going to obviously birth other forms of support down the line, but it's also helping the individual at the same time. So, what are you currently sort of working on at the moment that has sort of really seen it evolve since those early days?
Yeah, so it did start as an ugly duckling, as I like to call it. And we've slapped on a load of makeup and it's had a big glam up in terms of what it can do. And that's come from learning what people want. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's almost that pay it forward. Like, yes, you may be helping yourself by becoming more self-aware, understanding all the things that we talk about in therapy that, help people just reduce anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and those sort of things, panic in particular. But actually, just the idea that by doing that for yourself, you could be helping other people is really quite encouraging. I think it's a win-win from a tech perspective, and that's why we hear things about data that's really, you're being sold ads, or your algorithms change because you're a certain demographic or age group or whatever it is.
Mm,
This is just being used as a form of how can we help other people that are going through similar things. If you have a secret that has really helped you through grief or bereavement, why would you not want that to be shared with other people who are going through that experience that maybe
yeah,
aren't dealing with it the same way that you could? Because we are all so unique. And that's what we've kind of learned is as we go, we see people are stressed about health anxiety and, waiting lists in public healthcare. So we bring that information to them. We always hear that story about Dr. Google. You Google something, it's SEO
oh
driven,
yeah,
and suddenly you're dying. It's like, no, I've got a
horrible.
cough. No, you're dying. And I'm like, well, no, just it's education about that. What's the processes? What do I need to do? Okay, I need to see my GP, but in the meantime, what could it be? What things can I do to live more healthily? And that information and learning reduces that boogeyman fear factor of going, actually, okay, these are things I can control. So that's led us to doing different projects and different things because we're not experts in everything. So, and we don't pretend to be, but a charity that supports domestic abuse survivors, or a charity that supports people in housing or people struggling with finances, they have a lot of learning and knowledge that could be produced and sent out to people much quicker based on their individual circumstances through AI, but done in a safe, secure way. So we're looking at different projects in housing, we're looking at projects in universities and that healthcare side, because imagine how much easier life would be if, say, an individual is struggling with an elderly relative that's got dementia, but they also are looking for a community because they're looking after them and caring for them. They're also
Yeah,
looking for a community where they can go and sing or they can go and play a sport. We can put all of those services and local area knowledge and resources in so they can ask these questions quite simply about what they're going through, and it will tailor all of the places they can go, all of the services they can reach to and get for free potentially through charities and things that are available that they wouldn't have known about had they not been able
yeah.
to put it in somewhere. So that's what excites me the most, is that actually this is a collaborative thing. We're working with organizations that are doing amazing things. We're just trying to facilitate more people getting those amazing things.
Okay, so
And
it's
that's,
almost it's
yeah.
like a billboard in a way. It's like a focal point. If we all come to OK Positive, as it evolves, we'll be able to learn stuff that is going to help us feel better, or we'll have access to information that almost balances out the fear that we do find on the Google searches sometimes. And it's not just Google, it's conversations sometimes as well. We all, no matter what we're going through, if we're caring for somebody or we're stuck in an unhappy job, there's that balance to life. We need an outlet. Yeah.
Oh, it's thank you. And it's what I suppose the whole essence of it is that we want to improve quality of life, because essentially, you know, it can be mental health ranges so many different things. We don't just pigeonhole ourselves into one area of this
mm,
is what you need to
mm,
do.
mm.
We go, it could be that, your car's broken down and you don't know how to fix a tire. If they have that information or they have the services that can go support them
Yeah,
instantly,
yeah,
there's less stress around it. It's the panic of not knowing. And so we work with the organizations that have this knowledge. And it can be, simple things like that, or it could be that, your budgeting's not going very well and you're struggling with finances, or you're unemployed and you're looking for jobs. We can then work with the agencies that support jobs
yeah,
and push
mm,
that information. And it's just an interview prep and all the things that stress people out, presentations, whatever they're doing. In any scenario, we look at that and go, that's meaningful because that impacts how you feel. Everything impacts how you feel. Like you
yeah,
stub your toe. Normally, if you're in a really happy place and things are going really well, that doesn't bother you so much. You stub your toe and you've just lost your job and you've done this. It becomes a massive individual situation that you're panicking, you lash out and you're
yeah,
stressed. And these things have a ripple effect on other people around you. And so it's just about understanding it and making it simple, that just logging how you feel and that giving you access, being able to ask any question about anything you're going through very, very specifically to you, tailoring the things that can then help you with it is a good thing. And it relies on people wanting to do that.
yeah,
But it's those people who don't go and find those things or don't bury things down and it builds up over time that we want to avoid, because we've seen how badly that goes in society. So yeah, it's a big project, but the fact that we can work with other people doing these things and they can get closer to their communities, because that's one of the things I found just even in a founder community of working in business. It's a very
mm,
stressful job. You're lonely a lot of the time. You get a lot of imposter syndrome. The best support I've ever had is speaking to other people, such as yourself, around,
yeah,
what we're going through, what things, who do you know? How can I help? What things can we help each other with? What knowledge do you have that you've experienced previously with, starting a business or doing this
mm,
or finding your first customer, whatever it may be,
yeah,
that helps. And so that's just one area. There's different areas of life that people are going through different things. So it could be people who are going through cancer. Just
hmm,
being connected to other people who are going through the similar experiences can be really powerful to help that. And
yeah.
peer-to-peer support. We're not trying to remove human connection. We're trying to facilitate it.
No,
Um,
I think in many ways for me, because I looked at that, that was one of the questions I considered when I thought about this, because there's so much talk about AI taking over and technology and all the negatives. I think in life there's a positive and a negative to everything. It's not about balance, but if you've got light, you have to have dark, otherwise you can't appreciate light, right?
yeah,
So
the knife was invented to cut food.
yes, not to,
I'm not to
yeah,
go and stab people. So, and that's what we
exactly.
see. That there's it's the application of things. And AI, yes, people are scared about it because it's new and it's scary. There's not a lot of
Unknown.
knowledge about it.
Yeah.
It's unknown. But the
Mm.
more we find out, and that's, working in this field, really, in essence, AI is designed to facilitate things quicker. So it's to
Yes.
make admin tasks quicker. It's not to
Yeah.
replace jobs. It's to
No.
replace
No.
the boring parts of jobs. So
But
if that
also,
happens,
yeah.
it's quite useful.
I mean, as you said, you're not trying to, remove human interaction or community, but, the more an individual can learn in their own privacy something about themselves that can help them feel more confident or better about what they're going through, that is going to give them the courage to be able to step out and go out into the world and speak to people or find groups and communities where they can begin that real person interaction. So I see the technology angle of it as almost a starting point. It's the one thing we all have access to. I mean, it doesn't matter what your income is. You probably have a mobile phone, you know?
Yeah.
It's the
And
one
it's
absolute essential we all have,
And
you
it's
know?
and that's what I was talking about, digital access to basically digital equality. And people saying, well, let's use a group, a demographic of the elderly that maybe don't use technology as much as others.
Yeah,
But actually, if you're talking about an elderly relative that doesn't have access to technology, that is going to affect their quality of life, because if they have a fall, how do they get support or help? You need to be able to train and understand technology to a certain limit. You don't have to use it all the time, but it's
no,
ways of going,
yeah,
this is how a phone call. People think a phone call is just like it's a standard, but some people don't know how to do it on a WhatsApp or things like that. Being able to communicate with people across the globe that you would, like friends and family who've moved away, never used to be able to happen. Now you can do that instantly and for free in most cases. So
yeah,
it's to facilitate that. And if people in communities don't know where those communities are, like for me, it was OCD. Like I thought I was a terrible person. I was having intrusive thoughts. It got quite debilitating. It was until I saw an article about George Ezra, the singer, that was talking about the exact thing I was going through. And I was like, I'm not a weirdo. If a guy who's, selling out, playing at Glastonbury and doing all this stuff is going through a similar thing, maybe I'm not that weird. And then I started realizing there are so many people who go through this, and more information, more education led me to talking about it. And then I have conversations with my friends about it, my family, and then they talk about what they're going through.
Yeah.
And it's that I always talk about, don't ask people how they're feeling, because it's like asking a stranger for £20. Like, they're not going to give it to you. Why would they? Like,
No,
why would I give you
no.
£20? It'd be a very rare person that you bumped into the street and said, yeah, I'll give you 20 quid. What you do is you give someone £20. It's a show of kindness. You tell them how you're feeling, and they might feel indebted to you to give you £20 back later to pay you back, or to pass on that, pay it forward. And I think this is a mistake we've made in mental health. We've made it this victim thing about,
Mm,
oh, you've got mental health issues. Oh gosh, okay, right. I've got to tread carefully. No, it's just talk about your experiences. I haven't
yeah.
slept well this week because I'm stressed about a work presentation, or I haven't slept well because I've had a fallout with my partner. This is what I'm doing. I'm reading before bed. It's helping me sleep. I turn my phone off. And suddenly you're sharing ideas, and they share what they're going through. And we're kind of breaking down that stigma of, we're all going through this lovely journey called life, and it's just about
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah, I think when the sort of the World Wide Web came into play and we started having access to so much more information than we'd ever had before, unless we went and read a book. I think we got little bits of everything. We became very much stuck in our heads. And like a magnet, you pull on certain things that are relevant to you at a certain time, and then something grows. And maybe we've just overgrown on our thinking process in particular areas for ourselves. And now it's about how do we fine tune it and break it down back into those simple things. It is just a bad day. There is a lot going on. And how do I articulate that? How do I actually let people know I'm not perfect or this is normal?
And it is, and it's that thing. It's. I always talk about it. Everyone thinks about mental health as like an Everest. Like, oh, I'm depressed. I need to do this. I need to take
Yeah.
medication. I need to go through this process. This is going to take ages. It's the small things in your day, the small bits of
Mm,
joy, the
mm,
small things that
mm.
you think about. What brings you happiness? What doesn't?
Yeah.
And it's always. I saw something online that's it's classic Instagram inspirational quotes, but
Yeah.
really it was someone offered someone £10 million and said, you can have £10 million right now, but you don't wake up tomorrow. Would you take it? They go, no, why would I do that? It's like, yeah, exactly. So when you wake up tomorrow, it's worth £10 million. So just
Wow.
cherish that and go, you know what? That's the point of why we're here. So just keep finding ways that bring you joy in those. Even if you're having a bad day, there's always tomorrow. There's always the rest of the day. And I find like it's ridiculous. I found things, it's simple things to joy of, like productivity. I like being busy. I've got a
Hmm.
busy mind all the time. I like to quieten that down a little bit just by doing the laundry. And you think that's such a menial thing, right? But actually, I've done something productive today. I've cleaned some clothes, I've hung them up. Right, okay. We've got a baseline. And I always talk to my brother about this. We check in on each other quite a lot. And we were talking about how are you? And he was talking about all the things that's going wrong that day or whatever. I was like, but let's look at the baseline. Are our friends and family all healthy, safe, and well? Yeah, okay, that's it. Everything else is a bonus. So ultimately, you've got to look at things and shift that perspective, but you can't do that without information. It's taken me 5, 6 years to look at all this stuff and learn about it. And I'm still learning, and I'm learning from other people. But if you don't talk about those things, then you're never going to learn. And actually, listening is a big part of that as well. You learn a lot more by listening to other people's experiences, but you need to get those experiences told to you. And by asking people, it never really works. It's more
Yeah.
about opening it up yourself and saying, actually, you can talk about this with me. And I see that works so much more.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I mean, I think back to 2010, I started a group called Monday Motivation, and that was just bringing people together on a Monday morning to talk about, well, in those days, it was early days of my coaching career, and it was all about positivity and motivation and all this stuff and goal setting. And we did a lot of community projects in the group. But, I've been doing a lot of reflection back on that particular time in my life. It was one of the happiest periods in my work life because of what we created in that community. And it's as simple as being part of something that is beyond yourself, where people come together and we spoke about things and everybody had a voice. I don't know, when I reflect on that, it's a really happy time. I've learned so much from that, that almost things we spoke about then have been springboards to other thoughts. And it's evolved over time, like awareness, which I think is something also with OK Positive, which is one of your core areas of, focus. Becoming aware of where you're at or how you're feeling is almost like a first step in a way. Well, what do I do next?
It's open, aware, and engaged as part of acceptance
Yeah.
commitment therapy. It's going, first thing is being open, understand, and then aware is becoming educated on the thing that you're going through, and then engaged is actually doing something about it. And that's the
Yeah,
bit that tends to be the
the
area that people
hard part.
that drop off. And actually, you say it's a small thing of people hanging out, but it's the small things that are the most incredible things that
Yeah,
people do. It's the small
yeah,
acts of kindness. It's the small moments. It's like I look at it as a simple thing of, you know, you go to the pub or you go on a bus and you see someone who's sitting there lonely, just a smile or a chat about how they're doing or what, oh yeah, this bus is taking ages. My name's Charlie. How are you doing? Just means so much more. You don't know if that person's isolated or doesn't get a lot of conversation. And it's just those small things are actually the bigger picture. You can say, oh yes, someone's gone and cured a cancer. That is amazing.
yeah,
And think of all the people that will help. But also at the same time, it's the small little deeds, the acts of kindness, the things that happen that build the bigger picture. And I think we're missing that a bit. We all think we need to be doing something massive and incredible to
yeah,
validate it. No, it's the small things. If you can leave the world a slightly better place than you found it in your circles or spheres, then you know the rest of the circles and spheres will take care of themselves if they're doing similar things.
yeah. And I think if, in my own experience, perhaps you start off thinking that it has to be something big and grand, and then as you explore that and years go by, you almost end up coming full circle and saying, yeah, it is back down to that simple cup of tea, that smile, like as you say. So that brings us to maybe a big quotation sharing you might have with you along. Um, Gandalf, I believe,
Yeah.
is the clue here. So can you remember it for us, Charlie? What is your quote that you're bringing to our chat today?
So it's much more profound than you think, because I'm going to say it's Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, but ultimately it was written by Tolkien, who's one of the
Okay.
greatest writers of our time, of any time. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's a bit during Lord of the Rings in the book where Frodo says, "I wish I didn't live to see such times," and I actually think that's something that's quite relevant for nowadays with all the negative press, all the things that are going on in the world that we're worried about climate, we're worried about money, we're worried about war, all these different things. But you know, he says, "I wish I didn't live to see such times," and Gandalf turns around and goes, so do all who live in those times. That's not what's important. What's important is what we do with the time that's given to us. And so that
yeah,
little bit of what your responsibility is going, actually, I can't control what's going on in Ukraine. What I can control is how I treat people around me, the work I'm doing, how I turn up day to day with people, my behavior. And hopefully then that spreads to other people because you see and hear all these stories of, you know, stuff that's gone on in the past. Won't go into
mm,
the big details of all the
no,
evil people in the world, but it all
yeah,
stems from behaviors that they've experienced. And, you know, you look at offenders and criminals, they've gone through trauma in their childhood or they've gone through these different things. And it's like, if we can remove those bits by changing those behaviors with what we do and what other
yeah,
people do around them, you're less likely to have people that go down that path. And I think, yeah, while it's a silly movie quote, it gives me a lot of comfort in the fact that when everything's going wrong, it's, you know, it's what we do with our time. We're here for a finite amount of time in the
yeah,
chasm that is the world and universe. We're here for a very short blip of it. So enjoy it and make the most of it and make people smile around you. And I know it sounds all fluffy. People always go, oh, that's very fluffy and, you know, wishy-washy, fairy airy, you know, you love
no,
life and blah. It's not, it's just simple stuff of like, wouldn't we all want to be happier? Everyone chases it. People chase it in different ways. They chase it
yeah,
through money, they chase it through material things, they chase it through progress and awards and validation. But actually, it's the simple joys of watching a rugby match with your friends, or I love playing golf. It sounds ridiculous, but I just get so much joy out of that because I chat to people I know and
mm,
I'm
mm,
doing an activity, I'm being healthy, and it's big for me. Whereas reality, if people say, "Oh, you're just playing golf," no, but it's bigger than that for me.
no,
Or sitting there and having a coffee with a friend that you haven't seen for ages, and meeting your friend's kid for the first time, who's just had a new baby. It's just amazing things that you sit there and go, "This is a small thing," but actually, it's really big, and it's what you do in your day that makes the difference. I think.
yeah. Happiness is an inside job, they say, you know.
Yeah, I know, with lots of people fighting against it, you know, even yourself. I
Yeah.
always think that when people talk about how they talk to themselves, if you spoke to your best friend like that or your
Oh,
partner, you'd be divorced or never spoken to again
yeah.
if you
Well,
spoke the way you did to yourself half the time.
I know. Well, I tend to have one of, well, I've been accused of many things in my life. And what's the word is, I can't even think of the word now, but naive. Because I was in an airport queue once with a friend, and I was speaking to a stranger, and we were going back to South Africa for a visit. And they were saying, "What is it like?" And I said, "Oh, it's beautiful. And the people are so friendly. And it's just the most amazing place." And my friend piped up and said, "Yeah, but it's dangerous as well. And you've got to watch out for this and watch out for that." And I was like, "Yeah, but that's not what I'm focusing on. you know,
Yeah.
in my spirit, it's always been that I focus on the beauty of things, the joy, the love. I have dark moments, don't get me wrong. And I find often that my dark moments are as intense as the lightness of my light moments. But that's life. We have to have something to compare with as well. But yeah, life is an inside job, but we get to choose. We are in charge of how we want to see our world. But if we get locked into a situation, we can sometimes get locked into a way of looking at things. And I think OK Positive has the potential to almost like go, okay, shake up, wake up. You've got some other options here. Let's go shopping for a new way or an alternative way. Let's give it a try. Let's test and try what makes me feel better.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think a lot of people, I always use this weird metaphor of like, I love having a curry, like it's a treat, right? But if
Yeah.
you had curry every single day for lunch, dinner, lunch, dinner, lunch, dinner, after a month, you're going to be like, it's a curry,
Ugh.
like
Yeah.
it's not that great, this is rubbish. And that's life. Everyone thinks that, you need happiness all the time. It needs to be up here, up here. But actually, the whole joy of it is that you have your up and down moments. You have that roller coaster, and when you have that curry, that high for that moment, you're feeling great.
Mm.
That's why it's so special because you've experienced the lows. If we all went along at just a plateaued line, you're not going to experience those things. And that's when people go, everyone. I've read this article about everyone has a certain level of happiness that's their baseline, and I think there's a truth to it, but also there isn't. You can affect those. You can push that line up or down over a regular, longer period of time if you do more of the things that give you joy
Mm.
rather than the
Mm.
things that make you miserable. And I think the problem with society is we have a lot of vices that help cover up. Okay, I've had a
Yeah.
tough day. Let me open a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I'm really stressed about my work, so I'm going to go and gamble because
Hmm.
I think this could make some money back and make me happier again. Or we've got a lot of things that we do as vices that don't help. If we can find vices or habits that are healthier, like, going for a run or spending time with a friend, like just simple little things that stop that way of thinking that goes, okay, I'm spiraling here. That's what it's intended to do. It's essentially to check yourself and hold you accountable by going, actually, yes, what am I feeling? Oh, I've had a really good day. Why? Let me remember this for the future, that when I'm having a bad day, this is a good day that I had, and this is why. So maybe I'll try that again.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. And I think that it gives you a blueprint. It's like if you're driving from Land's End to John O'Groats, wouldn't it be easier to have a sat nav? Yes, because you'll get there quicker. You'll know what you're doing. You know how long it's going to take. You know all of the roadworks that are going on and the speed cameras and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot more information and it's helpful. It helps you with your journey. If you didn't, how are you going to get there? It's going to take longer. You're not going to know where you're going. It's going to be scary because you might take a wrong turn.
Hmm.
And that's what we're trying to do with technology. It's not to replace anything in your life. It's to go, actually, let me just focus on what's working, what isn't for me,
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
anyone else.
Yeah.
Because I think we're prescribed things and we're told this works for other people, so you need to do this. No, it might not work for you. And that's
No.
why people get turned off by things like mindfulness or turn away from mindfulness because it didn't work. It didn't give me an instant bit of happiness. It didn't calm me down.
Yeah.
And that's because these things take time.
Yeah.
If that's going to work for you at all. For me, mindfulness doesn't work because I've got a busy mind.
Mm.
I
Mm.
tend to prefer breathing exercises or distraction techniques, which gets me out of a moment of panic. And I can do that now without actually really doing the thing anymore because I know exactly what it is and I
Yeah.
can check myself. And that power, it's so freeing. Like, you don't have that weight on you anymore of going, I don't, because there's nothing scary that when you're having a panic, you start getting physical symptoms and you don't know what to do. Now I now know what to do. I've got my little toolbox for me. It means
Mm.
I don't get that panic anymore. And if everyone did that, like you make better decisions, you do more positive kind of not just thinking but action in your life. And that sat nav is useful. But people have to want to buy the sat nav or to plug it in or to use it. If they don't use it or use the principles of it, because we had someone was using our platform and said after about 6 months, they were like, oh, I don't really use it that much anymore. And I was like, okay, well, tell me what you do instead. And they go, well, I think, every morning I write down what I'm feeling. And
Oh,
I was like, brilliant. You don't
yeah.
need the app. You're
No.
doing what the app wants you to do.
Yeah.
You're doing it on your own time. And some people then go, I'm not writing anything down. I'm thinking about it. And then I go and make an action plan out of that for my day. And I'm like, that's exactly what we're trying to get you to do anyway. So the app's irrelevant at that point.
But what I find so interesting, and I imagine from what you've already shared, as the app is evolving, somebody would be able to master that first step, and they'll go along their journey, and then as we develop, we grow, right? And so you reach a new level of learning, and it's like, okay, so now there's a new thing. I wonder if there's something on the app that could help me with this new level. And so maybe it's like, okay, I don't need to go back to that piece because I'm already doing it, but what's the next piece? And it's almost like navigating your own journey and shopping for what resonates with you in a
That's what
way.
we put. Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
put in. That's why we put in the AI thing. Like everyone asked, why are you using AI? And I said, well, because every situation is unique. Yes, you can be
Mm,
doing our processes within the app and logging how you feel and understanding it, making action plans, engaging in that. But actually, there might be something that knocks you for six and goes, oh, a loss of a loved one, or a loss of a job, or a situation that you've never experienced before, or is new and scary. Right, what do I do about this? And it gives you that information on a kind of spot market right there. It gives you validated sources of information to help you with that situation, which you didn't have before, and it's instant. So
yeah.
it's like, I'm not waiting 3 weeks to get a phone call back from someone that's going to tell me about this. No,
Yeah.
I now know what it is. I now know what to do. So there's
Yeah.
always reasons to come back and do things, and that's why we keep developing different areas of it so that it helps. Like, if you get someone who uses the platform, goes to a different community, they're now more engaged in that community, and they're going to do more through that. And they can come back to this if they want to join another community,
Yeah.
because we're going to be building different platforms for different scenarios. So you may not even know you're using OK Positive in a different field,
Yeah.
but it's because you're
Yeah.
there for a different reason. And that for me that's the power of scaling genuine connection
Yeah.
and impact and support outcomes. And that's the whole focus of it. So it's, yes, of course, I wish we didn't have to create a platform that helped people through panic because they're getting to points of crisis.
Yeah.
I wish we didn't have to do this.
Mm.
As many people, I was talking to a charity, they literally said, in 10 years, I don't want us to exist anymore because this problem has gone. I want
Yeah.
to, my proudest moment will be saying to everyone, right, here's your last paycheck. Here's a new charity that you can go work for. We'll do something else. This is solved. But
Yes.
it's just, it
Job
doesn't
done.
always work that way, does
No.
it? There's always something new.
Well, I mean, it's like humans. We were constantly evolving. So although the foundation is the basic human needs, basic challenges we've had since the beginning of time, they've just evolved and they've got more complicated because we've become more diverse and there's more of us. And now we're not segregated into our different countries or communities. We're now all melding and meshing into one. We're a globally connected world. And so as much as we're getting a lot of new information in things we've never considered before on the way people did things, we're also putting out a lot of stuff. And yeah, so that creates a lot of complexities. And so I think that the struggle isn't bad as long as there are support structures like what you offer, where there are methods and ways that we can support ourselves through that. What do they say? It's only in the chaos and the struggle that we grow. But not
Well, it takes
everybody
legs to
really.
make an omelette.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think you've learned some good humor there. Yeah, if we're complacent or if we're just hunky-dory, do we slide? Is there a balance between finding that happy medium, that happy level for each of us? I think some of the things you suggest as well is doing something different every day or trying new things. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering, but it's almost like to stay alive and to be well, we almost have to be a tiny little bit uncomfortable. How do we know what that balance is for us, what that level is for us? You
You've got
know?
to test it, I think. And I always use examples of physical activity. I hate running. I hate it. So
Okay.
boring,
Me
painful,
too.
annoying. It's the worst. I go to the gym. I love playing sports. I love chasing after a ball. That's
Yeah, yeah,
fun.
yeah. Okay.
Not running, but
No.
I go running because
Wow.
it makes me feel better afterwards. And I go,
Okay.
I like that experience I have, and it's painful and it hurts and I don't like it. But you know what? It really helps me. If I'm stressed or I'm worried about something, I'll go for a run. I come back half an hour later, everything's changed. And also because you can tick a box there for yourself of going, I've done something. I
Yes.
did something meaningful. It may not be something I wanted to do, but I did it and it worked. And it's like, yeah, you go through these pains to, I always think about it, I was fascinated I studied sports science when I was at university. I was fascinated by scars. I was like, scars are really weird. Like, everyone laughs about, comic characters like Wolverine, he heals. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, technically we do. Like scars heal our body. And it's the same thing with, say, exercise. You see bodybuilders or people who are really fit athletes, they have to damage their body to build it stronger. And that's
Yeah.
actually something that we think about mentally. Sometimes you have to think about things you don't like or do things you don't necessarily want to do or make you feel vulnerable. or make you feel uncomfortable that makes things better. So it's that whole thing of everyone wants to have climbed Everest, but no one wants to do the effort to walk up it or do all the prep or all the training. People want to go do a marathon, but they don't want to do the runs every day. But to do that thing and to do that, you have to go through some discomfort. And discomfort's fine. And that's the thing we talk about in acceptance commitment therapy in particular, is that you can control what you can control. You can feel, if you're feeling down, you're feeling down. There's nothing wrong with that. You've got to accept
It's
that.
okay.
But you've got to commit to doing something to either fix it for yourself or to work on it. And that's acceptance and then commitment to yourself about it. And put simply, it's just going, you have to go through some pain to, if everything was easy and it happened instantly, the world wouldn't be very interesting, would it? If they always say that about businesses, you see all these great stories of people making billions and doing great things. But actually, if you ask all those people, the most joy was during the most stressful moments where they started out, they didn't know what they were doing. And oh my gosh, everything was like, how are we going to pay this bill? How are we going to do this? Those are the bits that you get the joy, and it's the pain. You didn't feel that at the time. You hated it. It's
Yeah.
the worst.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look back and go, this is amazing, we did this. If it was easy and it instantly happened. And I think we're in a society now that everyone wants instant gratification. Humans used to hunt for food, right? You weren't meant to eat 3 meals a day. You ate one big meal a week because you caught something. And
Exactly. Yeah.
now we get annoyed if the Deliveroo doesn't arrive within 25 minutes because you've clicked and you've paid and it's done. So it's instant gratification, and I think it's unrealistic. And it's the same thing in the job market. If you look at that with the younger generations coming through, they think they go to university, they're just going to get a job. It doesn't work like that. You've got to build a career. You've got to do that. You've got to do the hard things. I was a scaffolder for a period of time. I worked in the back section of a kitchen, which was I watched The Bear recently, and I was like,
Oh.
it's just like that. It's just like that.
Yeah.
It's very
Brutal.
frantic. It's
Yeah.
brutal. And these jobs like lent me to what I do now and the experience I have. And I enjoy them. I look back on that with enjoyment. At the time, I was like, my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. I hate this job. But actually, it taught me loads of things. I learned a lot. I made friends through it, and it's led me to what I do now. And that journey, you wouldn't change it really, would you? And I think
Because it's
people
like
would,
stepping stones, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
gentle stepping stones. You only get pulled up to the next level when you've kind of almost learned or mastered that thing in that first level that prepares you for the next
yeah,
steps. And I think kids are, not just kids, all of us are
all
expecting
of
the
us.
the jump leap to be instantaneous from idea to complete and utter result as quickly as you think it. That's what the expectation is now. And it is perhaps the foundation of what is creating a lot of that pain and suffering inside of people because I'm supposed to be able to do it. We get very few stories about people talking about their struggle. Well, because we don't really want to know about that because it's uncomfortable. We just want to, we're so used to hearing the rags to riches. I started out here and then suddenly I'm there. We don't drill down on what happened in between. There's a lot that goes on from the moment somebody starts something to actually maybe if they're fortunate achieve some form of fame and recognition. There's so many people that that's not even what it's about. It's just a life journey. It's a life of purpose where actually under the radar it's making a difference.
We always look at the shiny stuff and the awards and everyone
Hmm.
goes, that's not the bit that excites me. It's doing a project. Like someone goes, oh, well done, you got this mental health startup award. I'm like, it means nothing
Yeah.
compared to we've done this project that's helped
Yeah.
10,000
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That's the bit that excites me, not the, oh, that was great. It's actually the impact that you do. And I think that can be translated into any job. I know a family member of mine has just left working in financial services and is retraining, going back to university to become a psychologist.
Yeah.
And it's like scary. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have a job. Or is this what I'm meant to be doing? Family not too sure about this. Is this a good move? You need your career. It's progressing, keep progressing. So no, that's a journey that someone goes on. I've got another family member who's completely changed from working in IT and corporate life for 7 years to now being a ski instructor and traveling the world. And everyone goes, well, technically that's not the trajectory that should be. It should be, you get this, you get this job, you get this promotion, you get this, you get the house, you get the marriage, you do all this,
Hmm.
you have your kids, that's success. No, this person's happy. And
Yeah.
they're living what makes them happy and gives them joy, and they're seeing the world. And like, who's to say that's not success?
Well,
Like,
I so agree with you, but we're so conditioned to following that step-by-step process, or the expectation of what it's supposed to look like. And I think that nucleus is changing fast. This new generation are not following those steps anymore, and they're teaching us. I'm learning. I'm like, oh, wow, I could just maybe pack everything up tomorrow, get a backpack, and head off somewhere with a laptop.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
You
you can
know,
work from anywhere now.
well, exactly, but there is, I'm very conscious of the fact that there is in my thinking, there is this conditioned thinking that says, at your age, really? Da da da. And it's those things that get in the way. And that's one example. So imagine no matter what we're going through, we've got a thinking conditioning that gets in the way of what really, actually, truly makes our heart beat. What is our genuine level of enjoyment? If we stop all the what's expected and what the world says is the right way, or what family, parents, teachers, social media, how do we pull back to what truly resonates with us? And I know one of the other things with OK Positive you guys focus a lot on is values. What are my values? What really is important to me as an individual? Because I think it's a great starting point. It's like the beginning of the treasure map.
There's a million reasons not to do something, and if you don't want to, like, you can find one. You can absolutely
Yeah,
find one that will
yeah,
validate, I'm not going to do this because of this and this, and I shouldn't do this because of this. All you need to do really is find one reason to do it.
yeah.
And if you focus on that, you'll do it. And I think with values, it's really interesting because I always think about mine. They kind of sit behind things and they do change. But for me, it's always been I love connecting people. I like socializing. It's always been something I like doing.
Mm.
I like connecting with people. I like talking. If you know, I always talk. If I was stuck in a room on my own for a year, I'd be done. Like that, I'd just gone. Like you wouldn't get
Well,
much sense out of me. I'd be talking to myself by the end, and I'd have two different people that I'm talking to
yeah,
because I'd be
yeah,
so bored. But like that also lends into decisions that we make in our lives. So my values, those are my values of kindness around that and making friends and connecting. So I live that. So I go, ooh, I know so and so, and I know so and so, and I think they'll get on really well. I'm going to put them in
hmm
touch. I don't
yeah,
care if that makes me uncomfortable or whatever. It's even a simple thing like I'll get a phone call from a friend and I'm not in the mood. I don't want to talk. I'm actually having a quiet moment. I go, no, actually, my values are I like to talk and connect with people. I'm going to answer it. I didn't want to answer it. I answer it. I have a great conversation.
yes,
Suddenly, it's little things. It's like you go, I always talk about this analogy of the tube in London, one of the worst places I've ever been. It's just so convenient, yet so inconvenient. But you see someone that's barging past someone, or someone hits you in the shoulder. Now, usually, depending on your mood, you'll be like, oh, get lost. You're aggravated, you're angry.
yeah,
But actually, my values are to go, okay, a bit more empathy, a bit more kindness. I'll go, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to barge into you there.
mm,
And that change can change for them as well. It can change
yeah,
that moment that you have in that day that you think in your head. It takes 5 seconds to go, do I want to live by my values, which are, I don't want to start a fight here because of
well,
something so
yeah,
silly.
mm,
Okay, I'm not going to do that. And that ripple effect that it has for that person, maybe they were rushing to the hospital to see a loved one that's unwell. You don't know. Therefore, you just assuming the worst, which is what we're kind of programmed to do, which is, oh, that person's just an idiot who's
yeah,
tried to hit me while
yeah,
walking past. It's not true.
yeah,
Very rarely is it true. If it is true, then that's a different situation. You've just got to try and get yourself out of it. But most of the time, you don't know what's going on. And that bit of kindness of going, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to barge into you, even if it was their fault. They then take that on and the rest of their day of going, actually, you know what, that was nice. I'm not going to shout at the next person that bumps into me, or I don't understand what they're going through. And I learned that in sales, actually. When I worked in recruitment, I sent an email just asking about recruitment to one of the people that was registered with us, and got this massive email of someone screaming back at me, telling me this, that, and I was an idiot. And why would I ever want to talk to you? I'm never going to see you, talk to you about this, or give you work, blah, blah, blah. And I just wrote an email back. I said, I'm really sorry. This is my job. And I was actually just looking to give you some support if you're looking for a job in the future, or obviously if there are jobs I can help you with, just use me as a point of contact, blah, blah, blah. I'm really sorry that I've interrupted you in your day or whatever. And then they wrote back after that a really nice email about what they were going through, why they reacted the way they did, and they're really sorry about it. And actually, we kind of connected from there. It's amazing. I could have just gone, all right, cool, delete,
yeah,
never talk to them again. Okay, right, that's fine. But actually, that just on your values of going, actually, kill them with kindness, is that saying, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like rather than react the way that potentially you wanted to in that moment, of going, actually, no, you're an ass. I don't like you because you've said this. It doesn't solve anything. And so, yeah, it's those
yeah.
little things you do. It's big or small. It's just you've got to take the time to think about it. But people don't really know about that sort of stuff. They just think, I'll react in the present, not actually think about it as they go.
Yeah, and we tend to get a lot of feedback and advice from those around us, and we are the sum total of the five people we spend the most time with. So that's what they say. So, yeah, who are our friends and what kind of advice are we being given? When we get advice, it becomes our responsibility if we act on the advice we're given. Sometimes we don't want to be accountable for what we do or even think about the advice we get. Does that fit with my values? Does that feel right for me? It's just a fast track to a solution to a problem that might escalate to something else. So finding your values is knowing who you are. And I think I've done that in my work with my clients. You guys must do it a lot through your some of your processes, but it's very direction creating. I know that's bad English, but once you know what your top three values are, that can really give you some positive focus as well. It might not be the final. As you say, yours do evolve and change, but it gives direction and it has almost, it's like a signpost. When anything comes towards you, does that align with my values? What is true to me? And if it doesn't, are we brave enough to say no?
I used to have that experience that like in social circles, like, you know, people like to people please. So like if
Hmm.
I'm hearing someone badmouth someone else that I know, I just, you know, most of the time people will just stay quiet and go,
Yeah.
okay, right, keep my head down, don't agree, but I'm not going to say anything. I don't do that anymore. I'll end up going, no, actually, I really like that guy. I think, you know, probably don't want to say stuff behind his back that you wouldn't say to his face.
Yeah.
And the reaction you get is, whoa, whoa, I didn't mean it like that. And, you know, I'm sorry about that. It's like, well, no, I kind of stand by what you know, those are my values are like,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm about. I like to think that if I say something about someone, I'd say it to their face, even if it's a bit harsh, you know, I'd say it to their face. And so that's a value that you go, actually, I'm not going to be fake. I'm not going to be someone that says one thing, but behind someone's back, I'll say something completely different. I'd say, and that's actually, it checks you and your personality of going, well, if I'd say this, if I'm actually wanting to say this, because we react in anger, we react in different things.
Mm.
If I really want to say this, would I say it to their face? And if the answer is yes, you can still say it because, you know, you may be upset with that person, or you may be like,
Yeah.
this is something that I don't like about them. And what you find is when you start doing that, other people call other people out. And then all of a sudden, there's a much better like social circle that you have. And that can translate into work, that can translate into things in school. And that's how you kind of stop bullying. You don't kind of stop bullying by punishment. You stop bullying
No.
by like self-policing. Like you go, actually, this isn't something that aligns with me. I don't like that. Or and
Yeah.
therefore, okay, if you want to go and do that elsewhere, not around me because it's not my style.
Yeah.
And you can say
Yeah.
it however you want. You can make yourself sound cooler by saying, you know, oh, I'm not about that. You know, I'm bigger than that. But actually, it's just saying it's holding people accountable for it because I think otherwise, you know, you get that kind of negativity that seeps through things. And it's not healthy in that sense either. And that's where we get a lot of problems. You see that with technology, with you know, with groups on WhatsApp groups or social medias, people now have a voice that they never had before, and they can hide behind anonymity or whatever it is and say
Yeah.
whatever they want and get away
Mm.
with it. I like that thing about technology where you go, it's great for opening up conversations, but they may not be conversations you want to hear. And I always think that's like back in the day, you'd go to the pub and you'd speak to your friends there, maybe a couple of people that you don't know. And, you know, if you didn't like what they were saying or they were being rude or whatever, you could
Mm.
leave that table and go sit with your friends and be like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't have that. Now, that whole pub is online directed at you. So you can't walk away from it. You have to
No.
turn off the tech. But like, it's that world that we have now is that everyone's got an opinion, everyone says things, and everything's quite polarizing. So actually being that middle ground of going, no, I don't like that. I stand by my values is quite powerful. And then you see other people doing it because they have the confidence to do it because someone else they've seen has done it. And it's like, oh, cool. We can all do this. We're social animals. So we learn
Yeah.
from other people's behaviors.
And hopefully we can learn by from our own as well, because I do try very hard to always maintain a very positive outlook. And if I do say something, I always work really, really hard to make sure that it's for growth and positivity. If I can't say something nice, then I do my best to say nothing at all.
It's a very, very good skill.
Yeah. But I learned from the feedback I got. I also didn't like it when somebody was highly critical to me. So I thought, well, give to the world in a way you would like to receive and see how that plays out. We're not robots. We're human beings, like
It's
you
easier
said.
said than done. Yeah, it's easier
Yes.
said than done.
You know,
Oh, we've all said stuff we're not proud of. And
oh
like,
my, my.
and always the thing that I've got an amazing wife and she's put up with a lot of my stress and I go from kind of fight or flight mode quite often. So I'm always, if I get into a panic, I react badly and I just start
Yes.
saying, well, this is your
Yeah.
fault or I
Yeah.
don't like this. And
Yeah.
then now I've got to the point where I can catch myself instantly doing it. I'm really sorry. This is me just reacting because I'm stressed.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's really difficult to check yourself, but that's the first step. And then you start realizing actually you can stop yourself. I know it was that old saying when you're a kid, you're like, wait 10 seconds, count to 10 in your
Oh,
head, and then
yeah.
react. Easier said than done.
Yes.
But there is a truth in it in the sense that you just take a moment. Time always heals how you're thinking. You can
Mm,
articulate something
mm,
better than
mm.
saying the first thing that you think of, because it's usually the most hurtful thing that you could say. And we're
Yeah.
all humans, we all feel things. So it's easier said than done, but it's that ability. What was words are our biggest source of like hurt. You can
Yeah.
hurt
Sticks and
someone and you
stones.
yeah, you can hurt someone, but you can equally remedy it
Yeah.
instantly if
Yeah.
you change the way that you view your reactions or behaviors when you're having tough conversations. And there's nothing wrong with criticism. We've got to get over that.
Oh
Like
gosh, yes. You know.
absolutely nothing wrong with it. Like if I'm doing something, I had a friend of mine who actually said, I didn't like you the first time we met because I was breaking up a fight on a
Uh,
night out outside of
mm,
a bar. He thought I was starting a fight, but actually I saw someone getting hurt and I went over and I was a bit
mm,
aggressive to the guy saying, no, get off this person. He saw me fighting and went, I didn't really like you. I thought you were a bit, you're a bit aggro and all this stuff.
mm, mm.
But actually I've got to know you and you're nothing like that. And that was the first snap judgment that I made. And I'm sorry about that. And like we've become best friends. But it's
Mm.
like it's interesting. We always take people on the first thing that they do or the face value. Oh, I'm never going to like that person. It doesn't exist like that.
First impressions. This life we live is almost like a playground of learning. It's whether we've got to a point where we're perhaps ready to be aware of our actions and saying, you know what, I actually don't like the experience I'm having anymore. What can I do to make this better? And the more we are aware of ourselves, the more that whole mental health process can become such a point of discovery, in fact. No matter what difficulty anyone's going through, there is a way through that, there's a way out. Bring us all the way back to OK Positive, where you come to OK Positive and you go, well, this is a log of how I'm feeling at the moment. Let me just watch that. What's happening there? In my journal, what happened today to give me that smiley face or that or whatever. And now I'm starting to learn about me. What am I putting out of my mouth? What are my thoughts? There's so many tiny, tiny little things we can do for ourselves that can teach us. We get into hot water because we try things out that we've never done before. It comes out wrong. We shouldn't be so hard on ourselves. And we're not perfect. And it's not about perfection. It's about being able to express ourselves, share, help, support, guide, and experience life.
Well, so I was talking about that. I was speaking to a wonderful guy called Paul who runs a zero suicide charity, and his
Mm,
aim is the sole focus is to reduce the number of suicides to zero. That's the goal. That's where he wants
yeah,
to go. And I was sitting there thinking, that's a big, and it weighs heavy on him because he's like, the numbers aren't going down, or they're going up, or they're
yeah,
stagnating, and it's still we're not making this impact. But I'm like, you're one person, you're doing these things that are helping so many people with the talks you do, the places you go, the things you are doing.
mm,
You're making a massive impact. So you're looking at the data across the world of people that don't know you, or people across the UK that you don't know, that you
yeah,
haven't spoken to. If you actually looked at the people that you've spoken to, that's amazing. And then I looked at it, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we all just had like a WhatsApp group for every person with they have three people in their group, and your job is to get those three people through life, no matter what they're doing, check in on each other
wow, wow,
fairly regularly. And
mm,
you know what? If everyone did that, we'd have zero suicides because you're three people. You're holding yourself accountable to them, and they're holding themselves accountable to you, because that's how you do it. It's the small things that build up to big things. You can't, one person or one organization can't sit there and go, we're going to stop this. We're going to fix this. There has to be a group effort. And if we can find different ways of doing that in smaller groups and going, this is my three people, right? I'm on my deathbed and my three people are still here. They're around the bed saying goodbye. That's an encouraging thought to think if everyone did that, we would have zero suicides. And this is a problem that we're seeing across. And it weighs on the people that focus on it. And that's why information is amazing, the World Wide Web, all this stuff, the knowledge. But if it's not healthy knowledge, if it's stuff that's just skewed to bring you down, eventually
yeah.
you're going to be like, oh, give up, or this is too much. I'm not, yeah, it's pointless. What's the point of me doing this? It's demotivating. And
That algorithm, from what I understand, and sorry to algorithms out there everywhere if I've got it wrong, but it's looking for what are your interests? What are you interested in? It's not going to humanly say, okay, you're not in a really good space. We're not going to send you more of that. It's going to go, oh, that's what you're looking for. Let's bombard you with it. And so suddenly, you're getting confirmation after confirmation on how you
yeah,
feel.
yeah. And it's like, I saw a technology platform that graded your depression. And I was like, what is the
Whoa.
worst thing in the world that you could hear if you're feeling depressed or you feel like you're depressed? It telling you you are, it's gonna help. Oh,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
awesome. Like, yeah, that's just confirmed what I was originally thinking. Cool.
Yeah.
What do I do about that? It's just grading how you feel, not in a way that goes, okay, I'm grading how I feel for me to learn something about it, to then do something about it.
Yes. So, yeah.
It's prescribing that thing. And yeah, you see it in the main press nowadays. Negative things gain more engagement, which pays more advertising, which gets more clicks, and
Yeah.
therefore there's much more negative stuff. And actually, they'll fight, social media platforms will fight to have negative content up because it gets more boosts of engagement. People don't, and that's something in society. I think, I love a serial killer film or a thriller.
Yeah.
People
Who
are now
doesn't?
loving true
Who
crime
done it? Yeah.
documentaries because you're not going to be watching you're going to watch a true crime documentary. You're not going to watch a true safety health, like, someone saved a load of puppies
Yeah.
sort
No.
of
I
like
mean, like,
documentary,
seriously.
are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Because it's not interesting because humans, we're very curious about things and why things happen and what things, yeah, we're looking for that knowledge. So for us, it's not looking at negative or positive in that sense. We're looking at, okay, what you're looking at, what are you going through? Here's some things that might help you with that, or things that you haven't thought of. And that's learning rather than just encouraging that bias that you already have around it. So it's got to be safeguarded, it's got to be validated information, but it's got to be relevant to what that person's going through. Because if it's not, it's the same thing when you go to FAQs on a website. It's not your situation, it's the general situation. And that's not relevant to you. That means you go, oh, no, that I don't agree with that. And therefore, I'm not going to learn any
Mm,
more about it. That's
no.
the first impression thing that you get. So it's about safeguarding against that.
Well, it sounds amazing. And I think we could go on for hours talking away, but it would be lovely to continue this conversation down the line, maybe 6 months' time, and just hear what else is happening because it's just evolving so beautifully and so almost quickly. It's been
It
great
doesn't
speaking
feel
to you
that
today.
way. It's been a long trip. It doesn't feel, everything could be quicker. I want it now. I want to do more now. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
the world doesn't
isn't
work
that
that way.
that goes straight back to the beginning of our conversation earlier, where, when the viewer is making a perception on a situation. They're seeing where it started, maybe where it's at, and they go, wow. But for the creator themselves, it's like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm going through mud, sticky goo because it's so slow. So I think you just nailed it right there for all of us. That's the best lesson of this whole chat today is don't just think it looks so easy because it's got a shiny piece at the end. There's grit that goes into anything of worth. So thank
Enjoy the
you.
journey. Enjoy the
Yeah,
journey rather than, yeah. If you watched a movie and you saw the first scene and the last scene and that was it, it would be a very boring movie. You want to see the
absolutely.
journey, don't you? So
Yeah,
yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, Tess.
it's
It's
a
been wonderful
pleasure.
chatting.
Yeah, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Super.
Cheers. Thank
So
you.
thank you. Thanks, everyone. And I'll be back in no time at all with another exciting episode. One not maybe just like this, but it will definitely be something to spark your curiosity. Bye for now.